Hey everybody, it's Phone here once again. Hope you're doing well today. We're rambling about the Make Noise sound hack Spectraphone. It sounds like this. Okay, Spectraphone, I try and get away from doing as much housekeeping as possible. I'm trying to get right into all of these videos because they're always super long, especially this one's probably going to be an all-timer, I'm sure. But I'll just say on the part of this one, I'm no expert or even novice when it comes to spectral analysis synthesis. I'm no expert in anything, and I just want to have some fun, explore this together. It's my video blog. We're here to have a good time, so don't drag me for not knowing what is what on here, but hopefully we can kind of demystify it together. And if there's something you are interested in exploring or you're more familiar with than I am, just shout it in the comments. I'm not here to pretend I know everything about everything because I never could. On that note, just like any other complex oscillator with which this shares a lot of its DNA, you can go into it with really not understanding what is happening. I mean, swap out something like partials for something like wave folding. I know they are different, but just like you can kind of go at this thing, wiggle knobs, and have a great time and get some crazy sounds out of it. And I will say, not in just the layout, but in the way in which it feeds back, if that's the right word, the way it gets crazy and the way you explore it, it does share a lot of DNA with complex oscillators, and obviously it's laid out in the same way with cross FM of those two halves. However, what it is a spectral analysis resynthesizer, which is sort of something that was started, or the lineage goes back to the EMU Emacs, basically sound resynthesis. And if I've heard people talk about FM like digital DX7 FM as like converting complex sounds or building them out of huge amounts of sine waves. And I think that's kind of not a very good descriptor of it, because really those FM synthesizers are made out of modulation, I believe, right? To say it's like built out of different parts of sine waves, I think is kind of not accurate, but I believe that description actually applies to resynthesizers like the Spectraphone, like the EMU Emacs, like the Panharmonium. I believe, because I believe, as indicated, sort of, not indicated, but as is implied with this sine wave layout on the array, I believe the resynthesis part of this is taking either the files that are on board in the array or sound at the input. At least this is my reading of it. Again, I'm not going to preface everything in this entire video by saying stuff like that, because it's going to get to be a long video for that reason. But basically taking that, converting it into small slices or pieces in sine waves in partials, and then allowing you to like sort of scan through the focus and slide and step through the array with this clock input. And then there's different modes that analyze them in different ways. There's different ways that it's handled on the Panharmonium. I believe in that EMU Emacs, you didn't get to use your own sounds. You didn't get to process other incoming signals, but if we can compare it to the Panharmonium, it sort of seems like they took that additive, I believe is a fair comparison of them, type of synthesis, looked at the layout of a complex oscillator and thought, well, we built all of this software, we built this new platform, which is the ARM chip in the back, and I believe it's ARM chip anyway, don't quote me on that, but they built a hardware platform and just thought, well, we have all of this room, space, and power. Let's just double the entire thing, and then you can cross mod through the FM bus, things that you usually associate with a complex oscillator. Now, when I was looking at this, when somebody originally offered me the trade that I got this, I remember thinking, so it's great, it's a complex oscillator that's digital, additive, meaning that it breaks out the outputs into partials, which I understand is part of the synthesis itself. I believe it's not like there's a partial creator circuit on board or something. I know it's all digital, we're not here for those specifics, but what I remember thinking was like, why is there no wave folder? And because I love my wave folders and I love my complex oscillators, but the reason there's no wave folder is because it sounds absolutely insane. It gets so complicated in sound, not just in trying to talk about it for a stupid YouTube video, that it doesn't need a wave folder to beef it up at all. Like, it's absolutely mental, right? And now you can wave fold it, and I probably will later on in this video if we get to it, but like, there's no shortage of mayhem on board without it, right? So anyway, I just point that out because it's kind of like my misconceptions about it going in now. Let's mute this for a moment. There's a different... I'm going to start by talking about the outputs, not only because they're on top, but because there's lots of stuff on deck here that we're going to have to talk about different per mode. So I want to talk about the modes before we talk about the bottom half of things. But on the top half of things, I want to, in this video, we're going to mostly pretend that this second half doesn't exist. Now, obviously, it does exist. Obviously, there's lots of things going on, but I think for the sake of not only making this video more informative, more useful, I guess, less daunting, I think if we can just break this down into twice or two halves of the same idea, or the same idea twice, I guess is the word, then it just makes it less daunting, right? Like, it's this times two, if that makes sense. Like, and for me at least, that makes things, I don't know, a lot easier to digest. So on that note, the outputs, you get a sine wave output, which will give you a sine wave based on the frequency that's being analyzed. What we are interested in most, though, is, so we have the partials output, and this cascades. So on the right side, we have our even outputs, and on the left side, we have a summed odd and even outputs, but if you output both, you can just get the odds only if you wanted, right? So if I break that, here's the odds, and here's the evens. If you're from Washington, D.C., shout it out in the comments, because that was not supposed to be a reference, but here you go. I will say listening to both of them sounds best, but you do get some interesting timbres if you break that. This, again, I'm going to make some comparisons to like DX7 FM, and I'm hearing it, right? That's additive, but it, you know, there's that bell digitally-ness, right? Is that a fair comparison? So now, that's all of the I/O. I'm probably going to stick on this summed output of both for most of this video so we can see it on the scope. But just know that if you want to break out your partials, or sorry, if you want to break out your even and odd harmonics, then those options are on board. Again, like, knowing what even and odd harmonics are and knowing which you want and stuff, I think like the workflow realistically isn't like looking at it and saying like, oh, this patch I'm going to modulate the slide in a way that makes the odd harmonic sound better. I think realistically the workflow for most of us, at least our mortal humans, we're going to come in here and just say, oh, that sounds nice. Oh, that sounds a little thinner. Yeah, let's stick with that one. Like, just to say that at least that's my clueless self. Now, the other part before we dive into much of the I/O here, this is the array settings. So, okay, so I think the best way to go through Spectraphon and what it does for this video is to probably not use a filter, although I will at the end, certainly in a jam, certainly use a low-pass gate. What I'm thinking is we're going to go through the 4 current modes at writing. I just did the firmware update that added the new noise mode, although I don't think it's very new at this point, but that's okay. We're just going to go through all of them, pretending we're not having a second half, just to break it down, and then we can do a little bit of exploring, modulating across both halves and how you do it. And just on that note, you can use this as two independent synthesizer voices, right? Or oscillators, I guess. They're way more complicated than that, but you can tune them independently. You can use them separately, right? Like any complex oscillator. If you turn the sync off, you can just go at it on itself. One thing that confused me right off the rip, though, there is a clock input, which I didn't get the idea, but the clock input is how it steps through the array. Will we understand what that means at the end of the video? I hope, but we'll have to see. So here's the 4 modes. There is the SAM mode, so partials turns higher harmonics of the spectrum as value increases. Now here's the thing. I don't have any output in this mode, right? When I go to the white mode, when we get into spectral array oscillation, then the light comes on, we have our sound, we have our everything. This sounds so good. I'm going to say that a lot in this video. It's like, there's a lot of trying to understand what the heck's going on, but it always sounds good. So this is the spectral array oscillation, SAM, SAO, LED on. So what happens in this mode? We have partials, turns on higher harmonics of the spectrum as value increases, so partials going up. So here's it off, no harmonics at all, it doesn't output anything. If we turn this up, higher harmonics as the spectrum. Turns on higher harmonics of the spectrum as value increases. And again, this is why you don't need a wave folder. It gets into that territory for sure. It sounds so good. I won't change the pitch just yet, but I might in different ones. Slide selects the spectrum within the array linear. And then this, again, I think like if you know what you like, I'll turn this up a little bit. No, maybe down a bit. Slide will sound like wavetable scanning, because you're selecting which part of the spectrum, right? Now, if I throw some modulation at all of this, we're just going to modulate the partials, LFO rate. Let's grab some more cables. Sorry, one hand here. Let's go sine wave into our slide. Just give it some movement. I mean, it just gets crazy. What if we do, so let's take out our modulation there. And then focus is spectral compression and expansion. So all the way down. Doesn't seem to be doing too much. I don't know if that's... Oh, it seems like it's kind of limiting those peaks there a little bit. Like, if we just make this as insane as possible, we can kind of rein it in a little bit. But again, like, realistically, when you're going through... I changed the frequency a bit, sorry. Realistically, when you're going through this thing, probably going to twiddle knobs until it sounds good, right? And I think that is a completely fair thing to do. Now, there's a clock input. If we clock it slower or faster, it steps with the array at different speeds, but I'm not hearing much of a difference. Here, let's go less partials, less modulation, more focus, less slide. If I change my clock rate by tap tempoing, it doesn't seem to change it too much. And that might change in different modes. So on that note, let's switch over to the noise mode. Okay, noise mode. So in the noise mode, partial sets the width of the noise frequency side bands around the core frequency. Sounds a little dull to me. This kind of bug out there, I like that. Focus sets the cutoff frequency of the high pass filter. Oh, that might explain why. They changed the order in which they wrote this. This doesn't seem to be changing too much, but maybe we'll find it's because slide sets the cutoff frequency of the low-pass filter. Okay, that would explain why it sounds so dull. Let's open this filter. Okay, there's our noise. So pitch noise. Ah, see, I was looking for a pitch noise source on a different module. I didn't realize there was one on here. This wasn't in this firmware when I got this, so... Interesting. So you get basically like your own bandpass filter here, right? That does sound very digital, wouldn't it, though? That's not necessarily such a bad thing. Oh, that sounds nice. In a nasty way. Oh. And again, I probably wouldn't use noise on its own. You want to layer it with something else, but... maybe that sounds kind of nice, though. What if we modulate that filter cutoff? This is where I just feel like this drone beast can go at it. Again, I don't think clock is going to change too much on here, but if you are really into the weeds with it, what if we do just one harmonic? I don't know if that's going to change much on the noise mode. Maybe just to confuse you all, let's step back a mode if we change to just one of the harmonics. Just seems to kind of make it a little thinner, at least in this patch. And then... So we got our noise mode here. Let's go into the chaos mode. So partials as audio rate. Partials, put everything up to noon. Partials, switch back into our summed output for the harmonics. Partials sets the width of the noise. Nope. Partials adds audio rate modulation of one sine wave to the other. So it really is like... I feel like if you're really brainy about all of these specifics, you're going to love something like doing internal FM on within the oscillator and then modulating with the other. I'm not that smart though, so if we bring the partials down a little bit to make that a little less crazy. Sounds really noisy. We have the slide, so sets the cutoff frequency of the low-pass filter. Nope, wrong one. Slide adds multiple chaotic feedback paths to the modulation set by partials. Hello, feedback. Oh, that sounds good. Focus sets the harmonic ratio between the two sine waves. This is like a, you know, there's a lot of things that are reminiscent of a 2-op FM synth, but it sounds but it sounds way crazier. Let's do some of our modulation again. Modulator partials. Chaos. Absolute chaos. As the name implies. The only thing so that's chaos, but then I go back to this first mode and I get nothing. So is that because I need to patch in an oscillator source? So if I do that. So triangle wave coming in. See, again, I'm not pitching my oscillator here. We're just pitching it on board because it's analyzed that spectrum and gone in there. I don't know what would happen here if you started... Yeah, see, if you change the pitch on the other side, it starts to bug out. So that's something interesting to consider, too. If you're going crazy on the side that's being processed, you can add a layer of mayhem, right? As it resynthesizes it. So now, on that mode, this is the main mode. I realize I'm going about this backwards because I couldn't get it to run before, but so in the main mode, we have partials turns on higher harmonics of the spectrum as the value increases. Yes. Oh, right there. Focus sets the size of the ranges of harmonics that will be activated by the spectrophone. Interesting, you gotta land it in the territory? No, only when it's... Again, this behavior is probably different if it has some sort of internal sound, but I don't know where the internal sound is, so slide's going around. Slide sets the cutoff. No, slide sets the fundamental frequency in relation to the incoming signal, which will be analyzed. Maybe this mode requires incoming signal. Man, it sounds good, though. Yes. So that is it. If I change the clock again, I don't find too much is happening, honestly. I'm curious about that sort of things, if there's a way to create array partials. And again, you shout me out in the comments. What happens if we change this from a triangle to a square? What happens if we change this from a square to a supersaw? What happens if we change a supersaw to Laquelic? What happens if we listen to the sub output? See, I'm in the wrong range there. I don't know how I changed that. And again, the sine wave output you can get there just to fatten it up. I think the idea behind that is just like you're able to put this into such crazy territory that it's nice that it gives you an in tune simple sine and sub to fatten up the harmonics. I don't know where my sound went. There it is. What happens if you run Piston Honda into it? So now, wavetable in, mayhem out, and now on that note, I'm going to modulate the partials. I always say you could never cover every single thing on a module, and if you were to mathematically try and determine how many different settings there could be, if you're throwing external sources at it too, then you double the infinite amount. But on that note, if we switch to different modes, I'll take my modulation out, put the slide and focus up to 0 or to noon, not 0. Switch modes. This is our SAO mode. I like the first mode better for sending it incoming audio, but move on to the noise mode. Yeah, let's send a simple oscillator wave. Triangle. Get my ski mask on. This one is chaos mode. So that's all the modes. I think where you can go from this, 2 sides, FM bus, so I can frequency modulate this whole thing using this. Envelope followers on here, I believe. No, syncing of the pitches of the 2 halves. That's mayhem. We will ignore that for the moment. FM bus is off. I think if you start cross-modding them too, when the sync's on, you might sort of cancel out some of that, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on anything. I need to send my incoming wave again. Triangle's going in. The SAM mode. This sounds really good. We're going to send it a pitch now, just for funs. There's that wave folding section. Or wave folding-esque. Yeah, I really like that. What if we take that output and run it into low-pass gate? There we go. Interesting. When the signal coming in is so off in sound, it changes the timbre, right? Or sorry, when it's so off in pitch, it changes the timbre. Oh, that sounds really good. Maybe what we need to do is mix in some other sources. Okay, so here what we have now, I have patched up 3 outputs. So here is the sub output. Here is the partial on the odd side and the even side. Notice that, at least in this patch, they're a little bit quieter than that sine wave, and I think that might be, yeah, that's the focus knob, okay, because it's compressing it less. Okay, for whatever reason, this one it's working, so I'm modulating the slide a bit just to give it a little bit of hair. And then if we mix that in, so both partials cranked. If you only do one, you get that sound, but... Oh, there's the harmonics. And this is going into the steady state gate because I think it sounds really nice. We are saturating a little bit there just to get it to squelch a little bit. Desmodus Versio. Desmodus Versio, Desmodus Versio. Output of the steady state gate in to the Versio. Sorry, the cable mess, I'm sure, looks hilarious on the screen. Here we go. So just a little kick. All right, let's use this to play us out. I'm going to bring in some of the FM, which I didn't cover in the video, just to really try and cover all bases. But just, you know, if I never get to a second Spectraphone video, just know that same parts on the other side, you get an FM bus. You can sync and follow those things. Consider that if this one half wasn't wacky enough for you, you get two of them, and you can cross-mod them internally with the FM bus index. So, hey, I'm Tafony. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this crazy journey. I hope you're doing well. Take care, like, comment, subscribe, do all that crap. The YouTube is always on my case, but not covering, not promoting to you, and I'll see you in the next video.